No worries, thanks. I'm the digital product manager at Cricket Australia. I've been there 7 years. So that makes me old, I think. Yeah, so back when I started at CA, there were 3 people, including me, looking after the website. We now have a digital team of over 30. So, yeah, big changes. I think sport makes its money in a number of ways. So the first thing to understand is most of the money that comes into sport comes in through TV rights. Digital rights are a smaller portion of that, and that's growing over that time period. The other ways we make money are essentially off merchandise, ticketing, membership, and some commercial partnerships. So I think, you know, where you've seen sporting organisations go is to sort of move adjacently into some of the markets that they didn't have control over. So, you know, the evolution of AFL media, the evolution of CA into more of a media organisation. Effectively, I've been part of a media startup for 7 years. You know, we didn't have our own apps at the time I started. You know, we're now natively on iOS, Android. We're the first Australian publisher onto Apple TV. So, you know, we're seeing OTT as a massive trend and opportunity for us. You know, we live stream something like 45 million minutes of live vision last year that we weren't doing 2 years ago.
And is that only, going back to distributed content, which we were talking about from a commerce point of view, but for you guys, is that that content, how is that distributed out? I know again, from example, when Optus doesn't have a live rights deal, where does your live content get streamed out to from a digital point of view?
So we're on a subscription product. We take care of, you know, once Channel 9 produces the broadcast, we take care of the distribution from there. And it's available tablet, desktop, app, I think, you know. And, you know, the interesting thing about that for me is you can watch our product anywhere for free. You can go to any TV, in any home, any bar, and you can watch every minute of cricket across the season. But at the same time, we're streaming 45 million minutes of traffic on mobile devices or desktops, and, you know, we're monetising that. No, I think that's true. I think, you know, it's not necessarily, you know, we're not necessarily revenue positive on that. And I think we measure the effectiveness in other ways, but there are definitely, if you look at the AFL example, Telstra, you know, there's value to Telstra in having those AFL rights and streaming that vision. And, you know, we've done a deal with Optus around the same thing, and there is value to them being able to offer their customers our live vision, even though you can watch it on a TV. I think the key point, and you probably already made it, is that sport is arguably more stakeholder heavy and sort of centric than any large enterprise that you've ever worked with or in. You know, the governance models in our organisation are extremely complex. Trying to get everyone on the same page is a massive deal. And, you know, Cricket Australia, most people don't know, but we're actually owned by the state and territory cricket associations, and those businesses are very small businesses with not a large amount of cash. And, you know, trying to talk about, you know, digital strategy and monetisation and commercialisation with some of those businesses is really difficult. So we kind of organise around that and around kind of managing our stakeholders. Some of my team here tonight have, you know, certain relationships that they're in charge of. Yeah, I think everyone's doing it differently, and we beg and borrow and steal and make up our own mind about the way we want to go. So there are really different strategies in all of the kind of major codes. If you look at Major League Baseball and MLB Advanced Media, you know, hugely successful business. You know,
so what is that business? It kind of sounds interesting.
Major League Baseball. So,
oh no, I know what that is.
Yeah, no. So Advanced Media are their tech arm.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the story behind them is, can't remember how many years ago, DJ, 10, 15, maybe they got all the owners in a room, and all the owners kicked in about $1 million from all of their 30 teams, and they started a business. And they are one of the worldwide leaders in delivering streaming content over the internet. So they've streamed the Super Bowl, they've streamed basically every sort of major event from a consumption point of view would run through that organisation. And they're delivering HBO now. They deliver NHL's properties and content. So I think it's early days for us. We're exploring a lot of different things. The stadium piece is really interesting. I think the market here in Australia is really different. If you go to the US, a lot of the sporting organisations kind of own their own stadiums, so the clubs have a very direct ROI on their kind of tech investment in those stadiums in terms of the customer experience. Here in Australia, most of the stadiums are owned by the government, and there are organising sort of committees, and trying to convince them to invest in tech in the stadiums is very difficult. And given that cricket might roll into a stadium for maximum of sort of 6-7 days of cricket within a year at most stadiums, it's a difficult proposition for us to justify a lot of investment. However, we have our eye on how we, the thing that we did differently to the AFL a few years ago was we retained responsibility for the customer experience. That was a really deliberate decision, and that kind of extends through all areas of our business and our thinking now. And I think, we definitely want to take that approach into the stadium experience as well. So we'll look at ways in which we can improve the customer's experience from, when they're starting their ticketing journey to deciding to purchase, to actually match attendance and getting to the match, and talking to them about how the match was and what did they enjoy and will they come back. I think that's a really interesting area for us to be involved in. I think ticketing in Australia, if you want to talk about disruption, ticketing is ripe to be blown up. There are two.
Again.
Yep, there are two organisations in Australia that dominate that. And the interesting part about that is that you don't, as a customer, you don't think of yourself being a ticket tech or a Ticketmaster customer. You say, I went to the footy, or I went to see U2, or I went to see Coldplay, or I went to the cricket. You don't really talk about your relationship with those organisations, and that's really why we decided to try and own the customer experience in the channel.
On that, it occurs to me, you kind of have this, technology is a great democratiser, and particularly when you think about ticketing, where complex both hardware and application layer software, if you go back 10 years ago, fundamentally we're all carrying around our own ticket validation tool, tools via our mobile devices these days. Anyone really could control ticketing, and is that where you're heading with? Are you
Absolutely. The tech and the software is not the hard part about ticketing anymore. There are, maybe 10 startups in the US that you could spin up a ticketing solution with kind of overnight. It's actually, making sure that you get the customer experience right, making sure that you get the business model right, kind of the hard parts of that discussion. Yeah, I think growing the game's a really important part of what we do. So part of what my team does is not just the kind of high profile media assets, but we take care of the platform that every woman, man, child would use in their enjoyment of cricket on a Saturday in some sort of organised competition, or a Sunday, or sometime during the week. So, that's a really big part of what we do. We're about to really invest in that area in a significant way. Again, we think that tech previously has probably focused on that problem from an inside-out perspective, and we think we can really change our participant experience, our volunteers' experience, by looking at that in a different way.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kane. Thanks for joining us.